What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Watch It in Action. I'm BouseFeenux, and today we're going to be taking a look at this new Toxin-infused bow, the Mutalist Cernos. The Mutalist Cernos was released in Update 18.5, and the idea behind it is that it's a Cernos bow overcome with infestation, much like some of the other infested weapons we have. The weapon boasts a few unique features, such as the ability to apply a cloud at the point of impact that deals toxin damage over time. Strangely enough, though, the Mutalist Cernos doesn't actually have any innate elemental damage types. All of its base damage comes in the form of physical damage, with impact being the highest. I think this weapon is a cool idea on paper, but in practice it falls severely short. There are a few problems with this weapon, and I think they could be fixed by a few tweaks. First, the cloud the arrows produce only appears after shooting and not on impact, which means that if you're trying to hit a spot with enemies standing over it, they may have already moved on by the time the Toxin Cloud is produced. Secondly, the Toxin Cloud is just that, it's a Toxin Cloud. The damage type or amount isn't affected by any of your equipped mods or elements, which makes for horrendous scaling. Lastly, the damage over time mechanic that is slowly being more and more introduced works too slowly for a game as fast-paced as Warframe. In the time that it would take the Toxin proc to kill one of these enemies, I could have used another weapon and done it several times over. That aside, I think this weapon has enormous potential, and with the tweaks listed above, I think it could be a serious force to be reckoned with. Now, all of that being said, I was still curious enough to max out this weapon and put a build on it, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. Okay, so taking a look at the build here, we've got actually 4 forma invested into this thing, and originally, when I first built it, I had 3, and that's because I added the 4th one to fit heavy caliber here. Now, I know you guys are like, heavy caliber on a bow? Like, don't you never do that? You're right, you don't, but this isn't really a bow. I think of this weapon more as a launcher than actually a bow, and we'll talk about that here in a second, but first I want to talk about the stats. So, the charge rate is actually a lot slower than the regular Cernos or Rakta Cernos. It's over a second without vial acceleration, so we actually really need that either vial acceleration or speed trigger on here. Originally I had both, and then I decided that I really wanted the heavy caliber for extra damage because this thing doesn't do a whole lot of damage. It's not very powerful at all, and the damage over time doesn't scale with any of these mods. So even though we have corrosive and heat, we don't get a corrosive and heat cloud when we shoot the bow. We only get a toxin cloud, and it does a base amount of damage. It doesn't scale with serration, heavy caliber, anything. Now, if they change that, this build is going to be even better. Right now, it's just kind of okay, and that's because just the weapon is just kind of okay. Honestly, in my opinion, I would wait until this thing gets a buff before picking it up. You can get it from the marketplace for a couple thousand credits, and then it's just a blueprint that you build. But I would wait until they buff it, and I think they're going to. I hope they do, because this weapon does have a lot of potential. So, the charge rate is going to be a lot slower, even with a vial acceleration, than the Rakta Cernos. The Rakta Cernos has a 0.25 charge rate, which is the fastest in the game. That's kind of hard to beat, but still, I would hope it would have been at least a little closer than 1 second, which is kind of ridiculous. But anyway, fire rate's kind of whatever, that's an arbitrary stat. And then the status here is the other important thing. We have 100% status with just 2 90% elemental mods and then the split chamber on here. So that gives us 90% status chance, or 100% status chance, which is really nice. That's going to help us get those toxin procs from the cloud. That's going to help us get the procs from our elements here whenever we actually hit someone with an arrow, and so on. So, like I said earlier, it's really weird that this weapon doesn't have any elemental innate damage types. It's just all physical, with impact being the highest of those, just like the Rakta Cernos and the regular Cernos. So that was kind of interesting that they didn't add, like, toxin innately or, viral or whatever. I felt that it was kind of weird that it's just straight up physical damage, but, whatever. They may change that later. So anyway, the build here, we've got serration. That's a pretty standard rifle mod, bow, sniper rifle, whatever. It's just 165% damage. Heavy caliber was a hard choice for me, and I saw a lot of people using it, and then I decided to use it myself because I was like, well, I mean, we're just trying to get those clouds on the ground, right? And if we hit the enemies, and actually the heavy caliber doesn't affect it too badly. It's not too unusable, and it's not a crit weapon, so we're not too worried about getting headshots all the time. So we don't have to be nearly as accurate with it, and that extra 165% damage is really nice because this weapon isn't very powerful, and it's straight status, so you need all the help you can get. Split chamber is a no-brainer. That's just multi-shot. Vial acceleration helps us get down this charge rate here to 0.36% or 0.36 seconds or whatever. That's kind of a necessary mod in my opinion. I think we needed that there, and that's why I had to put an extra forma because it does require it. And then with all the forma we have, this build fits with just 1 capacity left. And then down here we have just our 2 60% mods, our dual stats with our for our corrosive, and you can make these anything you want. It is 100% status, so Radiation will be really good. Blast will be really good. You'll have really good crowd control with that. But the only problem is the cloud that's produced doesn't have these elemental characteristics. It's just Toxin. That's the biggest thing with this weapon. And then, of course, I added the 90% elementals to add to these 2 element damage types here to give us more damage. So I've gone ahead and put this build together. I highly recommend this thing as just mastery fodder, guys. I mean, check it out. Give it a try. If they buff it, it'll be a lot better than it is now. But as it stands, I feel like it's just a mastery fodder weapon. Let's go ahead and hop over to the Simulacrum, and I'll show you how this thing actually applies to a high-level situation. So for our test today, we're going to be using some pretty tough corrupted ancients here. And as you guys know, they have a lot of health. They're very hard to take down. And I just wanted to demonstrate this weapon on them and show you just how long it actually takes to kill one. It takes quite a few arrows, and this is the first bow that I've used, I think, that I actually had some ammo economy issues with. Now, I'm just going to put some clouds on these guys and sit up here and let you see the damage tick. You can put a bunch of clouds down and they all stack, but still, the damage doesn't do much, and it's only one element, which isn't really great against everything. Toxin isn't good against every enemy in the game, and, you know, it's going to take a long time to kill those guys. So, the biggest thing, too, and I should have mentioned this earlier, is that it doesn't stack with Mirage's clones ability. You don't get multiple instances of gas clouds whenever you shoot multiple arrows with your Mirage clones, and that, I think that's a huge oversight. I don't know if that's a bug or if that's supposed to be intentional, but I think that would make it at least a little bit better if we at least had the clouds there. So check out these guys. Look how much damage they're taking. They're just kind of sitting there. I mean, it takes a while to kill them. We haven't really killed too many of them. I spawned 20, and there's still quite a few of them left. So, like I said, mastery fodder for now. I would wait until this thing gets a buff, and maybe it's a little bit more useful, that at least if they made it to where the element affects the type of cloud you get, that would be even a little bit better. But right now, just the Toxin proc isn't really doing a whole lot for me. So guys, I really hope you liked this video. I hope you maybe learned a little bit more about this new weapon that just came out, and if you were deciding to get it, maybe now you have a choice. I typically don't like to give my opinions like that. I typically like to just tell you the facts and let you guys decide for yourselves, but honestly, until this thing gets a buff, I would say maybe stray away from it for now. Unless you can get it really easily, I wouldn't really use it. But guys, this has been another episode of Watch It in Action. I'm BouseFeenux. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you at the next one.